Hello and welcome, everybody. I have two incredible guests here today. We've never done a double guest episode, but we're trying it out today. And I have Catherine and Kate here with me from The New Truth. They have their own podcast that I have been absolutely loving, and it 100% aligns with my views on relationships and the direction that we're going as a collective with relationships. So welcome, ladies, to the show. Happy to have you here.
Thank
Hello.
you. So happy to be here.
Yay. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of fun on this show. Kate and I met in person. Well, we've all met in person, but Kate and I hung out last weekend while she was here in San Diego. And she said this too, but it was just so much fun. We had such a great time together.
Also, I was showcased on your Instagram story doing we remember our
Spice Girls?
Our Spice Girls karaoke. Our random Spice Girls karaoke in the middle of a restaurant.
Yeah, because they had the best playlist that night. I don't even know what happened, but we just wanted to sing to every song.
So good.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I would love to take a moment to really start with introducing your mission and your message, because you ladies are up to big things. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about like what the new truth means. And I know you are both love coaches and relationship coaches. So why don't we start with the overall mission and message that you are here to share?
So, Kate and I met in 2013 and were instantly bonded and drawn to each other and followed each other's journey through becoming relationship coaches. And what became abundantly clear is there were very few coaches, I certainly didn't see anyone else until I was following Kate, that did not promote fairy tale love. Right? Essentially, you won't find on all of our pages, like get engaged in 3 months, right? Meet your man in 24 hours. The new truth is essentially dismantling what we call the old paradigm of love, which is that it's a woman's sole mission in her life to get married, have 2.5 kids. It's 2020 and we're still living like the 1920s. And so the new truth, we essentially were talking earlier and we were like, look, we're standing for a new way of love because we love love. If you want a relationship, you get to have one, but now you get to follow the path of truth, right? True love is coming from when you are living from alignment with your truth, your soul, your heart, not I got to catch this person. I got to get engaged fast. I got to settle down and lock them down and then suppress everything about who I am in order to maintain the relationship. And Kate really helped me. And Kate, you helped me with this. I mean, Kate's company is the irresistibility method. And she was really my guiding force for what it looked like to live as an irresistible woman, to live from your light, your radiance, your joy. And I was coming from this place of really seeing so many toxic relationships. My story is one of severe codependency, love addiction, chasing men. And we were like, look, we're epic together because we're not the same person with the same story, but we each found our way to the same place and understanding about love. And that's what the new truth is about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll add just a little bit. So we were just before we got on with you, we had a little catch up and we were just talking about how astrologers' number one question they get is, when will I find my man? And psychics' number one question they get is, when will I meet my man? And this breaks my fucking heart.
Yeah.
It actually makes me sick. Oh, am I allowed to swear?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
On here. I mean, if you weren't, then I don't think that I would have invited you on here.
Oh, yeah. You've met me. You've hung out with me. So I like to swear because it's fun. But it breaks my heart because this is the old paradigm, is the fairy tale love story that we've been fed. So that, when our brains were developing, we were learning our 1, 2, 3s and our ABCs. We were also learning what love is through two different sources, whatever dysfunctional relationship our parents were demonstrating, even the happy ones still had a lot of dysfunction within that because nobody taught us relationship. And then we were watching Disney movies and we were, reading fairy tales, and we were learning love that for a woman that our life started when a man came and rescued us. And that's when we got to live happily ever after, is when we got chosen by a man who, you know, he gets to choose which maiden in the town is good enough for him. And we're all trying to be perfect to get the guy. And that still plays out on so many different levels. And the fact that this is the number one question asked to psychics and astrologers means that it's still the primary focus for women. And so, I mean, breaking free of the old paradigm into the new truth is learning how to live a life that feels alive from the inside for yourself, like with or without a man, building that foundation within yourself, the financial foundation, having, you know, a life that feels alive and inspiring and expansive, and that you're committed to that on your own, whether or not you have love. And that when you get into a relationship, it's just one more piece. It's just one more thing that's adding to your experience. And none of us know where it's headed. Even if you say forever and ever, it doesn't mean it's actually going to be forever and ever, because you're not God. You're not the universe. You don't get to choose. You don't get to decide that. You can just choose how you're going to be every day and how you're going to show up. So the new truth is coming from like letting go of all of the fairy tale stories that are stopping us from being fully who we are in our lives, and from taking responsibility for our own experience.
You ladies have such a powerful mission that I couldn't even, like, if I haven't shared my full story with, I don't think with either of you or my listeners. And I'm just going to share very briefly, because what you're sharing is my story. And I went through life until the age of 23 when I met my ex-husband, and I didn't actually know what I wanted in my life. I had never asked myself, like, what do I want? What lights me up? What kind of life do I want to create for myself? It was very much like people pleasing and just doing what I thought I should do, but without even the consciousness or awareness that I was doing that. So I really want the listeners to know that if you're hearing this and this is like shattering your mind right now, like, holy crap, like I've been doing this, or, oh my God, this is true for me. Like, just know that society didn't teach us any differently, and that there's nothing wrong with you, right?
No.
Like, this is just part of what we've been conditioned. And so I did, I met a really nice man. I got married. I did the whole thing, and we bought a house together. And what I was sharing with Kate when we met was that, and I think you have a similar story, Kate, too, was like that leaving a relationship where there's nothing wrong per se, like leaving a really like nice, easy, comfortable, safe relationship is almost harder. There's this, I mean, Catherine, you can speak to this too, but like, it's almost harder than leaving a relationship where you know that you're being treated badly, or like there's really big issues or whatever it is, because it really takes a lot to stand for, like, I don't want to settle and I know that there's more, right? Like it takes so much to get to that place. So that's really a big part of my journey of discovering myself. And it came from following the path where I ended up feeling really unhappy inside, even though everything on paper looked perfect. And so I really appreciate this message that you're sharing and this new perspective on what's possible. And I'd love to talk more about today about like this idea of the new truth of living from your truth, and how women can come to that place of even like, how do they learn to trust themselves? And what would that even look like for a woman to trust herself in both relationships, but maybe in like her everyday decisions?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So much. So first, thank you, Amy, for sharing your story. This was so much of what Kate and I loved as we got together, because we did talk about that, on how it might be easy to look back and say, oh, leaving a dysfunctional relationship that didn't look good, that didn't feel good, that was a mess, right, is different than everything looking good on paper. And I would argue that the feeling inside's actually the same, because I wasn't in a dysfunctional relationship telling myself I deserved more or better, right? Like I actually was telling myself what so many women do: there must be something wrong with me, that I can't make this relationship work, that I can't get this man to love me. And if he would just do something different, then I'd be okay, is similar to the soul emptiness of wait, all that's on the outside, right? It's just, actually, we could say it's two sides of the same coin. I'm pointing the finger at my partner saying, if he would behave differently, then I'd feel okay. Is an emptiness in my soul because I don't know what I'm feeling and I can't see that I'm crying myself to sleep every single night. And that's not what love should be. And then that's the same soul, not emptiness, but like, wait, all this stuff on the outside isn't making me happy. And I thought it was supposed to from inside the old paradigm. And I want myself. And we, together, the new truth is a woman wanting to belong to herself more than she wants to belong to someone else. And we interviewed Amanda Renee recently, and her story was unbelievable because we had this whole conversation about truth and how culturally we really value big revelation, right? Like white light experiences, like even with love, right? I met the one and I just knew that he was the one. And really together and with Amanda's help and Amy, I have no doubt that you didn't just like make a decision to leave your marriage. Like one day you just magically decided you would, right? It was a slow unfolding. So I think our message in terms of, how do you learn how to trust yourself? First, you have to learn how to drown out all the noise, right? You don't go. I mean, the thing that pains me about the psychics is somebody tell me what's true for me. Mm-hmm. Somebody give me my life rather than, okay, I'm going to make space. So I have big boundaries around how much time I spend on social media. Like if I'm in the middle of a big decision I'm exploring in my life, I actually stop looking at other relationship coaching teaching, right? Like I stop looking outside. So journaling is one of the first practices. And I think, and Kate, I'd love to hear what you have to say too. The real permission I want to give right now is finding your truth is a slow unfolding process. It's a going toward your soul because the truth is your soul knows, your gut knows, and it might not come really fast for you, but you have to be willing to be in the let it be play, right? Let it be curiosity. I mean, my friends were telling me to leave my ex. I broke up and got back together with my ex 17 times. Okay, wow. My friends.
Is that a record?
My friends, I mean, disgusting. But he changed my life. My friends were telling me to leave, right? And so look, it didn't work. All my friends in my face didn't work, right? Other people are never going to be able to do it for you. It has to come from you. Other people will walk beside you, right? Other people will cheer you on. They will root for you. But a place that every woman has to get in her life is being willing. I mean, that's the initiation into womanhood, is when I'm willing to choose myself. When I'm willing to say, this doesn't make sense. I don't, everyone else is saying it, but this doesn't feel true for me, but I'm going to follow the truth. Or even if everyone else is saying it, I had to arrive into my own moment. And it was a moment between me and the divine when I was finally done. And was able to see my partner as a gift, like able to truly love him. And he asked me to get back together on that last time. And it was only when I actually had a relationship with myself that I was able to say no. But I totally would love to hear from both of you, the breadcrumbs of truth, that each of you have followed and what even self-trust looks like for you two now.
Yeah, well, so the truth, and yes to the slow unfolding, and sometimes it's fast. I want to add that. So sometimes it's fast and it's just like a clear, like you meet someone, you go on a date and your mind is like, wow, this guy's so amazing. Oh, he's so mesmerizing. He's so handsome. He's so successful. He must be the one. Meanwhile, your body is like, feels like it's going to throw up. That's your truth. And so sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's fast. I think definitely in a long-term partnership, when you're getting to that conclusion, it often can be a slow unfolding and of like getting more and more clear. But I always say to my clients, separate the story from how you feel in your body. Because how many of you listening have had an experience or a billion experiences where your body was like, no. and and it's not even a word, it's a feeling. It's like a nauseousness or an anxiety or a pain or a punch in the gut or an ache in your heart, but it's a really clear sensation that it's a no, whatever that may be, but your mind talks you into staying, whether it's a job or a relationship or having sex on the first date with someone that you don't feel good around, or it could be a billion different, like it happens daily. And as children, we're so in touch with that inner GPS. Like kids under the age of 3 are so clear with their yeses and nos. There's no confusion. It's like, no, I don't want to sit on Santa's knee. They scream, they have a temper tantrum. They do everything they can to follow their own truth. Meanwhile, their parents are teaching them, and it's not to blame the parents. They don't know what they don't know. But meanwhile, their parents are teaching them to go against their own truth and to do the thing that their parents want them to do. And that's where we develop this voice in our head, which I call your saboteur, which is now making all of our choices. And it's making our choices rooted in fear, based on what other people will think of us, based on what we think we should do, based on not wanting to hurt other people, be feeling responsible for other people's experience. So I think the most important thing in getting clear on trusting yourself is starting to pay attention to the stories. Journaling is a great way to do it. Write them down. You go on a date and the story in my head is, this is an amazing guy. He's so this, he's so that, he's actually a stranger, if it's a first or second or third date, versus how do I feel? Oh, I feel kind of anxious right now. Okay, pay attention to that. Or I feel kind of sick right now. I won't go into the story, it's a pretty traumatic story, but I worked for a company, and one of the directors of the company, every time he was around him, I felt like I was going to throw up, but he was so nice to me. And I ended up having a really traumatic experience with him. And turns out he was a sociopath, but I didn't know that, but my body knew. So our bodies are so wise. We know the truth in our bodies. And a lot of us have had trauma and have had, so many experiences where we don't trust our bodies. So definitely doing deeper healing work, with your body. Somatic experiencing is a great healing tool, but healing to reconnect and build a relationship with your body is really important. And then start to separate story from feeling. If your feeling is a no, or even your feeling is a yes. With Jeff, I had this story in my head that he was not conscious, not spiritual, not this, too surfacey, da-da-da-da-da-da. And yet my body, every time he asked me out on a date, I would check in with myself. My body was a yes. And so I kept following that. And 6 years later, 4 businesses later, we've built an empire together. We have pretty epic, have created some amazing experiences together, traveled the world together. And my body just kept saying yes, but my mind was trying to talk me out of it. So don't believe what you think, believe how you feel.
I can relate to everything that you ladies were saying. I can definitely relate to Catherine, that idea of what's wrong with me. And I'm sure a lot of women can do that, because it's just so common of it's easier to be in self beat up and making yourself wrong than to actually listen to your truth. Sometimes it's really a protection mechanism. And Kate, I love this distinction between the thoughts and the story versus what you're feeling in your body. And one of the ways that I have my clients practice self-trust and intuition is with smaller choices. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to trust your intuition, should I leave my job? Should I leave this relationship? Should I go on this date? Should I not go on this date? Going on a date might be a smaller example of trusting yourself or not trusting yourself. And worst comes to worst, you don't go on another date, right? Mm-hmm. But there are smaller ways throughout the day to build self-trust, whether it's choosing what to eat, what to wear, whether you want to go to a party or not, really just starting to play with things that don't have as big of a risk, because when you step too far outside of your comfort zone, your ego is always going to flare up. And until you start to develop that trust within yourself, I find that those bigger decisions can be almost impossible to make. And that's why I think it takes so much time, why it's oftentimes very slow, because you're learning how to value yourself and you're learning what's important to you and you're learning how to trust yourself along that way. It's a process. Yes. And it's not just one day you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm worthy of having so much more. It's building belief in yourself and what's possible. And there's a lot of faith that has is in all of this, right?
Yes. And I just want to add and building that, like I never built self-trust or self-worth by myself. Hiring a coach, working with a team of people to support you to build that foundation within yourself, because the reality is it's been our whole lives, you know, our whole childhoods we were told to go against that truth. So it is however old you are minus like 6 years or 8 years off that, and like that's how many years this part of you has been running the show. So it's not something that can just be magically done overnight. But I love that you said that, like start with the little things so you can start to build that trust within yourself, and then work with one of us, work with someone, like actually hire someone to be in your corner, to be helping re-regulate where you're trusting, where your decisions are coming from, so that you can actually experience the love and the life and all of the everything that you want to experience. I've never done it alone. I've been on this path for 16 years, never done it alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the power of having someone else reflect back to you as well, because there are going to be times where you forget your value and your worth and go back into old patterns. And I haven't done it on my own either. And I've absolutely, I wouldn't be where I am without having the support of not only like mentors and coaches, but also sisterhood and other women like reflecting my light back to me, right? That's huge. And I'm seeing so much more of that, and I'm loving it. Kate, you and I talked about something really interesting about like the idea of marriage. And I know that we've just talked about like the old paradigm and, you know, just not falling into it by default and actually making a conscious choice from a place of like, does this feel true for me? And when we look at where relationships are at now, I mean, when we look at divorce rate, and we've kind of lost faith in this old model of marriage, right? So if that's not the model, then what are some other options moving forward? What are some things that you guys are exploring either in your personal life or with your clients of what that could look like to still honor yourself and maybe choose to get married, maybe not choose to get married? What might that look like for someone?
Yeah, I'll start this one. We actually interviewed a good friend of mine, Kelsey Grant, who's a dating coach in Vancouver, and she and I had dinner a couple months ago, and we were talking about this idea, both of us, marriage, like saying, I mean, I will never say forever till death do us part, because I don't know who I'm going to be a year from now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now. And if I'm in a relationship that's growing and evolving, it feels good, and we're both still invested and we're still on board, yeah, I'm going to keep going, but I'm not going to predict that that's going to happen. So we talked about this idea of having if you choose to get married, having it be more like a car lease, where it's like, we'll check in every year, and like at the end of a 4-year term or a 5-year term, that's when we'll really reinvestigate, but like be investigating on a consistent basis, weekly, monthly, yearly, where we're still checking in and just practicing radical honesty with bringing ourselves fully, and like, where can we grow more? What do you want more of? What do I want more of? Is this still in alignment? And I mean, in the old paradigm, women make the decision they want to get married before they've even met someone that they can imagine having that experience with. And that's the problem. I always talk about this idea that most of the divorced women I've worked with, knew on their wedding day that this was not what they really wanted. And they had a sick feeling, and they pushed through because they didn't want to let other people down. They didn't want to disappoint their family. They didn't want to hurt their fiance because they loved them. They had this screaming sensation in their body that this was not the right thing to do for them, their own truth. That's the new truth, is your own truth. But go against it because of these pressures we have on us to all follow the same path. I think about how much the world has evolved. You know, one person, I wouldn't get a job at right now and be like, oh my God, this is the best job ever. I'm going to be here till I'm 95 for sure. Okay, guys, let's sign a contract. Like, I'm with you forever. Like, I would never do that. No one would do that, right? My dad did that. He's had the same wife for 45 years, and they're very happy. And he just retired, but he had the same job for 40 years. And yet, like, for me personally, and we're all unique souls, for me personally, I would rather stab myself in the eye with a fork than have one job and one partner for forever, you know, unless it was to my highest evolution and growth and it felt really amazing. So I think that there's infinite ways it can look. In the new paradigm, your truth, you're always creating your own reality. So my partner and I have been together for almost 6 years, and 4.5 years in, I got my own apartment. I moved out of our place and I got my own sanctuary where I'm in it right now. And this is where I live half the week and I spend my time and I create and I have workshops and it's my little sanctuary that's reflective of just me. And then I stay at our place some of the time or at his place some of the time too. And it's created newness in the relationship, and it created this spark when we did it, like, oh, we miss each other now. And it's added a new flavor to the relationship. So I believe there is no one way. And the problem is that we're all still buying into the idea that we're all supposed to have the same thing. And that's why 50% of marriages end in divorce, but probably a really significant of the rest of them aren't actually happy or aren't actually fully expressed as who they are, right? The old paradigm of relationship that we learned is based on sacrifice and settling and compromising and, oh, you got to suck it up for the family. You got to make it, you know, you got to shut that part of yourself off in order to have the relationship survive, versus, oh, I'm going to be fully who I am. And when I meet someone who loves me in all of me, and then we want to grow together and evolve, like let the relationship unfold as it may. And it's so much more exciting that way. If we actually watched a movie of ourselves in a marriage, if we watched ourselves in a movie having dinner every single night with the same person, same conversations in the same house, and we watched this movie of our life play out until we were 95, like we think it would look like The Notebook, but what we don't see in The Notebook is all the years of them having dinner together every single night, talking about the same thing. Like, it would actually be boring as fuck if we watched it that way, right? What makes relationships so exciting is we don't know where it's headed, and that it's like letting it actually organically unfold so you can experience it, so you can be in the now, as opposed to us we spend so much time in the future, we miss what's happening right now.
Yeah, you talked about that earlier, of feeling what you're feeling in the moment versus Gabrielle Bernstein calls it future tripping, of like you meet someone, they're a stranger, or you see them, they're super cute. And then before you know it, you're trying on their last name and you're imagining yourself walking down the aisle and you like legit don't even know this person, what their values are and who they are. And all of a sudden you're in your head and disconnected from your body and not even clear that this is a good fit for you. And I think that whenever a woman is questioning something, giving yourself the space to feel, and sometimes that space is not directly when you're with the partner, it's actually when you're apart, and giving yourself space to feel. For me, what that looked like when I was going through my process is I went on this yoga retreat, and every time I was on my mat, I would just bawl. Like I was so out of alignment with myself, but then I would go back home and feel comfortable and safe. And it was easy. And I would be like, I feel like a psychopath. Like my mind is telling me that this is safe, but my body is clearly having this reaction of suppression, like suppressing all these different parts of myself. So I definitely want to continue to invite the listeners into this idea of learning how to connect with your emotions in your body. And that's another thing that we haven't learned, not just relationships, but learning how to actually identify what emotions that we're feeling, process them in a healthy way, and then make choices from that place.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've been with Andrew for 6 years, and I got married in 2017. And I have so many thoughts about marriage and commitment, and it's twofold. One, I really appreciate that you acknowledged about your marriage. Like I didn't even know who I was, right? But I entered into the marriage. And I think that is really the core of the old paradigm. Like the old paradigm says, this is what you should do. This is what you're supposed to do. So I deny how I feel with this person, whether or not they align with me, but I want the wedding, right? And I want to post on social media, and I want the big engagement ring. And if you haven't already listened to our engagement ring episode, everyone has to go listen to the truth about engagement ring. But I really think that that's the core. Like, we're getting married without knowing who I am. And with that said, I work in 6-month and 1-year long containers. And I say to my clients on day one, if you don't want to leave this container at least one point during our work together, we're not doing deep enough work. So I want you to know that that's going to come up, because that naturally comes up around intimacy and relationship. And there is something that commitment does that nothing else can. Because when I'm in a container, I'm in a commitment, I actually have to rail against all my unconscious material. And that's when I have, like, only with a safe, trustworthy, reliable partner, right, does all of that stuff come up. And there's the new fairy tale is the conscious relationship, actually. Like, at the extreme, we've just now idealized, we always do breath work together and meditate together every day, and we're always processing our feelings and blah, blah, blah. Like, now we've just actually shifted. It's the same projection, the same imagination, the same idealized picture, because with the right person, I'll never feel lonely. I'll never feel frustrated. I'll never feel disappointed. We'll always want to have sex at the same time, all the time, rather than all that shit's a part of life. All that shit's a part of a relationship. And that doesn't mean you've chosen the wrong person because you experience that, because we live in a very entitled culture in which life's supposed to give me what I want, right? And I think that's the really sad part of the old paradigm. Is I enter marriage thinking it's going to give me something, rather than my life is mine. My marriage is mine. I get to decide what I want to bring to life. And yes, I am growing and evolving, and shit happens. Like, there are bad, like, there's life. I mean, we're in the middle of a crisis right now in our culture. And so I just think it's this balance and this magic of, when I take my time getting to know someone, and I actually like who this person is long before I'm ready to lock them down. One of the things, I actually was interviewed earlier this week, and I started crying thinking about what it was like falling in love with Andrew, because I actually had a thought when I was falling in love with him that any woman on the, I'm going to cry again, any woman on the receiving end of this man would be lucky. That this is an extraordinary man. And if I die, I mean, we have these conversations, Andrew, if I die, you must fall in love again, because you are meant to love. You are meant to partner. I mean, my husband is like serial monogamous. Like, he is always known. He's an only child, right? So he's always known. And so it's that balance of, okay, do I love and respect who this person is, right? Want to know why people stop having sex in marriage? They stop respecting each other, right? And I think I walk into a marriage like it's supposed to give me something, rather than I'm deciding what I bring to it. And that's the true conscious relationship, right? Conscious means choice for me. That's what consciousness is. Consciousness isn't you have to be doing breath work and reading spiritual books all day long. Consciousness is, am I able to pause long enough to know when I have my conditioning running the show and what's automatic, or when I'm in my 5-year-old self or in my 13-year-old self, or I'm in my adult vehicle, and I can make the choice to do what actually serves this moment, what's needed right now, what comes from my soul. And I had a really difficult year in my relationship last year, but it was my commitment, honestly, that saved us. Because I spent half of the year wanting to run because I didn't like what was happening. My husband was really sick, right? And so, like, there's the ego drive too. Oh, I don't like what's happening here, so I'm going to go find it somewhere else. And I think we can all say, you can't Google, should I stay or should I go? Right? Like, you can't find that answer anywhere other than inside a container in which someone's holding you and tracking you and supporting you as they listen and reflect back to you what's true, what's real, what skills can you actually build here, right? What's needed now? I mean, that's why I became a relationship coach, because I was like, look, we learn everything else in our life. We can actually learn this. I can learn how to do this well. I can learn how to choose well and have the skills that empower me to be able to do it well and become mature, glorious, beautiful, brilliant lights in the world that can be with the truths of life. Hey, the truths of life, that, and like, life doesn't owe you jack shit. Like, nothing's owed to you. You get to decide, and you get to bring to, you know, all of yourself to your life. And I think that's how the world's going to heal, actually. Like, each individual being all of who they are and following their passion and following their dreams, and then healthy romantic partnership. I mean, when we're loved well, we shine. It's like better for our health to be loved. I mean, like, there's all that research now. Our immune system is boosted by being loved.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't hold love just to one person.
Of course not.
Like, that's the
part.
The problem of the old paradigm. What you said about the sex, not wanting to have sex anymore. I love everything you just said, and not wanting to have sex anymore in relationship. It's because in the relationship in the beginning, we show up so fully and you know, our heart's open and fully expressed, and show a willingness and an openness, and we're more aligned. Not always, sometimes it's a fakeness, like just showing parts of yourself and holding back other parts. So there's layers to this, but also like being independent and single and being powerful and in your light and fully expressed, and then the partner's attracted to you because you're in that state, and then we look to them to fill us, and we look to them to feel good, and we blame them when we don't feel good. And so I think, based on everything you're just saying, it's radical responsibility, radical ownership for everything we feel, pleasure and pain. Absolutely taking ownership that when I meet a man and I feel amazing, or a woman, I feel amazing around him, I feel lit up, I feel turned on, I feel alive. It's not because of him, it's because of me. Those are my feelings. And we give all the credit to the other person. And then as soon as it flips into the painful part of the relationship where our shit starts coming up, that's when we look to them and we blame them for it too. We blame them for our pleasurable feelings. We blame them for our painful feelings, or we credit them, I should say, for the pleasurable feelings. And yet all of those are yours, and you're never upset for the reason you think. There's always, which is why it's so great to have a support system around you, helping you uncover your patterns and what's coming up for you and what's actually underneath the pain of when he doesn't text you what is your pain, or whatever the trigger is. And then same with the pleasure. When you feel turned on and alive and excited, and you think it's because of the guy, but it's actually because of the capacity of beautiful feelings that are within you. So radical ownership of absolutely everything we feel, that's an empowered relationship. And now I can bring my stuff to my partner and I can share it. And obviously there's going to be times where there's a trigger and you're both in your reactive protective mechanisms. And when you're on the growth path and you're understanding yourself on a much deeper level, you can navigate that from, like, the trigger happens, and then after you have the conversation about what was really going on and what was underneath it, and now you have intimacy. Into me you see, and now you grow, and now the relationship is a conscious, evolving relationship that is serving your growth, as opposed to the old paradigm, which is need the man to feel like I'm worthy, need the ring, need the house, need the babies, need the wedding, need all of this stuff to feel like I'm enough. And then I get all of those things, and guess what? I still feel dead inside, or I feel worthless, or I feel like I'm not enough, even though I have everything I thought I ever wanted. And guess what? Someone else taught you that that's what you're supposed to want.
Right. Right. Ladies, every single time one of you have talked, I'm like, okay, I want to talk about every single part of this. This is so powerful. This is potent. This is like next level relationship conversation. So thank you for bringing it today and bringing it for these listeners. And I think that that's a really beautiful place to kind of like wrap up this conversation. There will be many more conversations. Is taking 100% radical responsibility, ownership for your life. Because any time that you blame or feel like it's the other person and are not willing to look within, you're giving your power away. Right. And when you give your power away, it takes away from like your energy and your joy and your time for giving that to something else that really matters in your life. And I think that that's a piece that can be very challenging, is instead of to point fingers outside, and is to really look within. And I was curious, Catherine, your thoughts on this, because I think a lot of people will put a clause on that, like, unless it's an emotionally abusive or physically abusive relationship, then, you know, it's not always you. Well, I think that if there's times, and I'd love for you to speak to this because it's not my personal journey of like when the pattern keeps on happening, then it is worth looking inside at yourself and to not just continue to say like it's the other person.
Yeah. My experience with, I mean, my trauma history, and I think we have to remember we live in a patriarchal society, right? Which you come out of the gate, out of the womb, right, as a woman, and you're automatically given the message that you're less than, right? And so many women, especially with childhood trauma, are walking around with this shame identity, and always thinking that it's me that's the problem is a boundary issue. So a lot of the empowerment that I do with clients is actually getting to the place of learning the boundary between what's mine and what's yours. As they learn how to take responsibility for themselves, they learn how to actually believe that someone else is responsible for themselves, right? So it's both. And then that's how we start to piece it out. And yes, triggers come up in relationship. I was triggered all the time. I could never land with my ex. And so that's something we're looking at. And I think we, unfortunately, right now that there's more education around codependency, everyone's like, oh, I don't want to be codependent. I don't want to be codependent. Well, everyone is codependent. Every human being on the planet is codependent. And usually I'm helping clients figure out the difference between when am I expecting, or where's the line between there are things that are reasonable to expect in a relationship. For sure. You better be able to feel safe in this relationship. You get to have loyal, reliable, trustworthy, but usually those are the things we're starting with. We're looking at how they actually feel in the relationship, and then what are the things that are actually happening. Usually reality checks are good, because at least for me, I was like all feeling, right? Like all the time, my feelings were running my life. And so I needed the reflection of like, what's actually happening? Oh, he lives 3,000 miles away and he just told you that he's okay seeing you once every 3 months, right? You shared how you felt. What's his response? So safety isn't a feeling. And this is the core of what I teach, because love isn't a feeling, right? It was so awesome hearing you, Kate. I love when you do the voice of the like, I just met the one, it was the best date ever, right? Like I'm being swept by a feeling, right? And so this realization, so when you get that love isn't a feeling, it's a series of actions that take place every single day. Safety is not a feeling. Safety is a result of when I take a risk with my partner and share how I feel, or share a need, or share a desire, it's met with kindness and respect and cooperation with me. Safety is a result of when I share something that's bothering me, that person gives a shit and actually wants to change their behavior or cares about the impact they're having on you. So it's 3 parts. Martyrs, right, always care about the impact, or the severe codependent always cares about the impact that's happening, right? It's constant. I'm triggered by everything. I can never land, right? Narcissists don't care about the impact they're having on you. They do not care about the impact they're having on you. So it doesn't matter how many more times you say it, how many more communication language you learn, how much more personal growth work you do, a narcissist does not care. In a healthy relationship, I care about the impact I'm having on you. I care about your feelings. I care that it matters if I show up for you when I say that I would. Right? I care that, the health of a relationship is not that you never fight. The health of a relationship is how fast you care about repairing after a fight happens, right? In healthy relationships, the repair happens fast. 2 people work together quickly to resolve whatever upset there's been, because a lot of how relationship dismantles is it's just one upset on top of another that never gets dealt with. And then of course you want to leave the relationship, right? But I facilitate the most unbelievable healing forgiveness rituals. One of my couples came in a couple of years ago. They had not been living together. They had separated, and we did ritual after ritual of having them acknowledge how each person had felt, deal with how they had hurt each other and reconnect, she just had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And they're living together. And so those are the, like when I was on my like soapbox about skills, like those are the skills, right? And most women need the skills on how to share how they feel, right? Be able to say when they're upset about their partner or disappointed in their partner, and then wait for the healthy man who gives a shit, right? Because a healthy man will care, and he'll care deeply about the impact that he's having on you.
And everything that you are desiring in a man, awaken it within yourself, because you, with all the skills and the tools, if you don't know who you are and you haven't committed to filling yourself up and getting to know yourself and building that, like the financial foundation, all these different things that we seek in a man, are you embodying it? And when you embody it, that's when you attract healthy love, because you're fully embodied within yourself and learning all, like having self-awareness of these different aspects of you, and then learning the tools on how to do a healthy relationship.
Yeah, I love that, activating this desire and like this feeling of completeness and wholeness within you, which I think is now, I don't want to say it's being overused, but I think that like, what does that actually mean is there's a lot underneath that, right?
Yeah.
So how would you say, I'd love to ask you ladies each, like, how do you get into that space of like connecting to yourself, being in your feminine essence of play and joy, and really feeling like that completeness within yourself? Are there any things that you do, or any practices that you love that you continue to practice?
You want to answer first, Kate?
Can you guess what I'm going to say?
I can, but nobody else knows.
I was doing it last night, a year ago. So I'm always, just like we're talking about, like I'm always growing all these aspects of myself. I believe that depression is repression of who we really are. And most people are operating from that false sense of self, of who we think we are, that all of this stuff that we've both been talking about, of operating through your patterns and operating out of who we're told we're supposed to be, and versus being who we really are. And that's what causes depression, because we're so repressed from the truth of who we are. And so I'm always on the path with my clients. I'm always growing every part of myself more and more and more. And for me, my sensuality and sexual expression, like, or embodiment and sexuality is like always a growing edge. And I've come a very, very long way. And so I've been I looked for years, or I wasn't necessarily actively looking, but desiring to take some sort of dance. And at the perfect time it came up, my favorite bar instructor, I made a joke to her because she has a dance company, and I said, I love watching your Instagram, can you teach me how to move sexy? And she's like, yeah, I have a class, it starts tomorrow, it's called Army of Sass. And I was like, what? And so I signed up for Army of Sass, and I, not knowing, it was a 10-week class, like every week for 10 weeks, not knowing that there was a show at the end. This is last January. And then I was like, oh fuck, I got the email and there was a show, and I was terrified of it, but I'm like, okay, I'm already in, so I'll just do it because I'm here to grow. And so I joined Army of Assassins, dancing in heels with fishnets and like underwear and like bra, and we wear little costume pieces based on whatever song we're doing, like a bow tie or a boa or whatever. And this dance has totally lit up my life. I mean, I think of like the show day, I was so nervous, the very first show, that it felt like I was in high school again, and we were all doing each other's hair. And most of my dance friends are way younger than me. They're all in their 20s, and I'm almost, I'm not going to say that. I'm 38.
Level
I'm at level 38, almost at level 39. That's another episode.
You're using levels now, not age. Yes.
I'm almost at level 39 in just over a month. And, so if we were doing each other's hair and makeup on show day, we're there all day running through dress rehearsals, and then we perform with 2 shows at night. And I was so nervous. And then as soon as the lights came on, I was like, oh yeah, I love the spotlight and performing, and just like totally had so much fun. And it's, even on the lowest of days where I'm like, I don't want to go to dance. I'm so tired. I'm going through so much heartache right now. Like my best friend's mom had a brain aneurysm this year. And the day after, I had a dance class, and I was like, oh, I can't go. And as soon as I walked in the room, everything was left at the door, and I had the most fun. And even being around these girls in their 20s who are such amazing dancers and I'm not. I'm growing because of being around them and I'm having so much fun. I feel like I'm 20 when I'm there, and it totally just has lit up my life in such a beautiful way. It's called Army of Sass and it's in 26 cities in North America. So check the city you're in because it could be there. And there's lots of other things like it, but so fun.
Incredible. Amazing. Yeah, I tried pole dancing last year for the first time, and I've always loved dancing, but it wasn't until I did pole dancing where I really got to feel what embodiment feels like, and like owning my body, owning what it feels like to be in my body, and being sexy for me and not for like a man or for someone else, right? And that's a whole different level of embodiment. So I'm so excited to hear that you're exploring this, and definitely doing a show would be on like the edge of my comfort zone, and it's something that they offer. So I'd love to lean into that. Thanks, Kate.
Do it. I have a show on Saturday. If it's not canceled because of this virus. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know everything's canceled, but we're still here.
That was
Catherine,
the most inspiring thing. Like Kate's posting videos of the classes. It was like unbelievable. I love it. And I can feel, I mean, she always Thursday nights, right? And we talk on Fridays and you're just always in that energy after. And I would say for me, it first any movement at all. Like I was a hardcore gym rat for a really long time and I was not embodied. I mean, I worked out every single day, but I was not connected to my body, and yoga transformed my life. I mean, I did yoga twice and then I signed up for teacher training, and I ran up to the teacher and I was like 23 years old. And I was like, I want to feel more how I just felt like what you just made happen for me. Like I want to be able to do that over and over and over again. And so yoga is a big deal for me. And right now I'd say the play for me is being with my puppy. And her name was given to me by God. I had never heard this name before. When Andrew and I went to pick her up, we're holding the puppies in our arms and he just looked at me and was like, what's her name? And I said, her name is Leela. And then I went and he was like, oh, like you haven't ever said that name before. I'm like, yeah, I don't actually know that name or anything about it. And then we went home and the name literally means play. And she came into our lives at the time when I needed it most. And it's so funny. This is an edge for me right now, actually. Like I'm still learning how to relax and let go and play, because it does not come easy for me. Everyone always jokes that I'm not the funny one. If you listen to our podcast, like I even say it, I'm like, I'm going to be the serious one and Kate's the fun one. But I really appreciate this question because it's totally my edge. And so yoga, being with my dog, I am like severe extrovert. Like I'm not okay unless I'm with people. And I pick my friends well. Like my friends are freaking funny. Right, Kate Harlow. I mean, I peed my pants when I was.
That was the best.
Walking down the street, legit, like peed my pants and had to change my pants before.
We both did. We were laughing. I haven't laughed like that in years. We couldn't stop. We were walking with ice cream and like everything hurt. Like, so fun. So surrounding yourself with people.
That's it. Like that's how I play. I make sure I have fun friends. and that's my edge, because the healing that happens when you throw away all the competition bullshit that you've been taught to feel around women. When I'm with Kate, and we talk about this on the podcast all the time, I'm becoming more of who I am because of a different reflection, right? Because there are gifts that she has that I get to receive when I'm around her, like ways of being that get to happen. And when you heal all the sisterhood stuff, then you actually discover who you are, right, with other women, and you learn how to appreciate other women, and we are not all the same, and I get to find what I need actually through the reflection of being around all of them. And so I really, it's like you don't have to be doing it by yourself, right? Like we can't. And that's why we're so relationship obsessed because it's in our bodies that we're meant to be connected. But right, we're not meant to hide away in our homes with only one person that we like suck dry of
Never right now because we're all under quarantine.
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
That's what Zoom is for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
like I'm gonna have energy for the rest of the weekend because of getting to have these conversations with you. And I am an extrovert. And so I have learned how important it is for me to have that. But yeah, that's how I'm working it now.
We should do 90s karaoke on Zoom like once a week.
Yes.
I'll do whatever you want to do, Kate. I just love hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Sold. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much for this epic episode. I cannot wait for everyone to hear this live. And I would love for it to send everyone over as soon as you're done with this episode. Pull up your podcast app wherever you guys are and go ahead and look for The New Truth. And you will find these incredible women, and they have so much wisdom to share, and you'll get to actually hear their personal stories. I love that you guys interviewed each other in the first few episodes, and we got to know you a little bit more. And they also both have private coaching practices around relationships. So really feeling into which of these ladies or who you relate to. I think that any of us really, for me, what matters with coaching or going deeper on your journey is to make sure that you feel like different coaches are for different people. So really inviting you to connect with these ladies. I'm going to drop their Instagrams and their websites and their podcast all in the show notes. Is there anything else that you ladies want to share with the listeners before we close out for today?
We're just so grateful. I'm so grateful. I mean, the fact that we have podcasts, like now there's just no more excuses for why we don't have what we need. I mean, there is so much available to us. I'm so grateful, right? One click away to receive wisdom and inspiration, and the message is clear. I mean, we all are walking the walk, right? We have our own coaches and mentors and keep growing, and it is a deep and sacred honor to work with people individually. So Amy, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I just want to point out, like, walking through the world with your heart open, you get to experience alignment like we're experiencing. Catherine and I met at a party in San Diego. Neither of us live there. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. She's from Boston. We met at a party in San Diego 7 years ago, or 8 years ago now, I think. And this years later, just like alignment happened and our podcast was birthed. And then we met Amy at an event in San Diego, the magical place to meet people, a month ago. And you, like, soul sister, and we didn't even talk. I met Amy at the very last minute. I couldn't stop staring at her because you're so freaking gorgeous. And I just went up to her at the end and I'm like, I just have to say, you are so gorgeous. Like, whoa. And she was like, what? Me? This is the third person to say thank you so much. And just so humble and so sweet. And that just sparked something. And then now we're soul sisters. Like, this sisterhood is freaking everything. Stop trying to find a guy and up level your community of women that are around you, women who inspire you, women who you feel more aligned, like more alive, and more, like Catherine talked about, having access to parts of yourself you may have never had access to. Surround yourself with extraordinary women and your whole entire life will change. That's my last piece.
Yes.
I was thinking that exact thought in the shower today. I was getting really clear on that. So amazing. Well, ladies, I definitely would love to have you back. Thank you for being here, and have an amazing weekend.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.